So today we're going to talk about what happens with manifestations and why sometimes it's so change, because really manifestation is about change. So again, if you removed all of it, manifestation is fundamentally about change. Okay, but change? Why is it so hard? After all those questions, though, I'm going to start in the same place I did yesterday. So if you're on yesterday, I apologize. We had some sort of technical difficulty, but today we should not. So I'm going to start with where we were exploring yesterday. And it's going to sound like I'm not talking about manifestation at all, but trust me, it will all come back together. So to understand why it's so hard to change or to change states, right? Which again, remember, is defined as what? Neville defines states as a body of beliefs. Remember, it's not one belief, it's a series of beliefs that keep supporting the main belief. So if the main belief is I am healthy, but then you have a lot of beliefs that are in line with it, like people over there, or I'm healthy, but look at the statistics about how many people are going to the hospital and so on, then you're going to experience a mix of things. So what we need to do is get you to the point where you don't have any mixed beliefs, right? And that's what Neville refers to as brazen impudence. But let's go and rewind. Let's go back to the fundamental essence of why it's so hard. But to understand that, we have to understand that we as humans are very much influenced, very much impacted. Hello, welcome. Very much impacted by our society. So humans are environmental beings, right? We love to think that we're never impacted by our environment. Okay, and when I say environment, I mean other people as well, or like by even watching TV or by whatever that is. Okay, but we are definitively, and research shows that we are impacted by our environment. So, for example, if you are in a culture like America, and we're very, very individualized, okay? So we have a religion called individualism, and if we are hyper focusing on trying to be an individual, okay, and we get taught at a very young age to be like, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? Notice the question isn't what does everybody else want you to do? It's what do you want to do? So the question is trying to get you to be individualistic right out the gate. Okay, and then you look at advertising, right? And so then all the advertising is, hey, buy this product and you'll feel what? More fulfilled, more whole. Okay, so don't worry. If you just jumped on, I'm just sharing with you what we're doing in terms of trying to understand why is manifestation so hard. What I want to do is I want you, hello music, welcome. We're kind of continuing from yesterday music, and this time, trust me, it'll be fine. So what I want to do is, again, come back to this idea of being an individual and how we then, from a very young age, have this schema or mental map of this is what it means to be an individual, okay? So then we begin measuring everything by whether or not we're an individual. Okay, do I have this choice? Can I do what I want to do? Can I, right? Am I able to do whatever it is that I want to do? Okay. So then that becomes the way in which we create a set of rules, a set of laws, but not just that, an identity around what it means to be an individual in a society that teaches you that if you're not an individual, something's wrong with you. Okay. So and this is just a huge metaphor, and this is just a huge, thank you so much, music, that's very kind of you, this is just an example of why it's so hard sometimes to change or basically to manifest, right? Because we are so inundated and fed the idea that we need to be a certain thing within society. Okay. And then not only that, then we're parented by parents who sometimes aren't really good at parenting, let's be honest. And then they pressure you to follow that social pressure that they themselves feel like they also must follow. Okay, so then you have this rule book that says you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, you got to do that. Okay, but what that does is that creates baggage. Okay, and that creates history, and that creates normalization. So what do I mean by normalization? What I mean is you've practiced that identity since a very young age, that it actually takes time. In fact, I'm going to read a quote. Now, if you know about Neville Goddard, then you'll know that Neville had a very, very well-known, and when I say well-known, I mean this guy probably influenced some of America's kind of greatest businessmen like J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller. I mean, these were the same people Hello, Liza. How are you doing? Thank you for the hearts. And so, if you are into Neville at all, you knew that he had a guru, and his name was Abdullah, right? And again, like I said, this guy impacted so many huge greats, right? That we would call greats in American history. They were actually in the same building as Abdullah. So there's a book called Allah, Teacher Healer, a sequel to, and it was told by Walter C. Lanyon. Okay. Oh, yes, yeah, same here. I totally love Neville as well. And so this book could be actually a record of what Abdullah had been saying. So I want to read to you, and this is from Neville, Abdullah's mouth, okay? So check this out. He says, some are discouraged because they cannot change the conditions at once. That means right now, in the moment, okay? They forget that they have sowed and harvested for years crops of errors. So they expect to come to see an immediate fruitage, right? Don't worry, I'm going to break this all down. Immediate fruitage, forgetting for the moment that I'm just reading, that the very field has been thickly sown with tares. Okay, so, and then he goes on to say what the overcomer is, okay? And that's a very, very powerful thing as well. But what Abdullah is saying is, listen, sometimes it's hard to change because people are expecting to change overnight, and they forget that over 8 years, 10 years, 20 years, 45 years, that they've accumulated a certain set of beliefs, okay? That those set of beliefs, whether they be from the culture, from your religious groups, your friend groups, whatever it is, those have become hardwired into you. You're literally getting dopamine for that kind of, for those kinds of beliefs. Whether you want them or not, you're actually getting rewarded for them, okay? Yeah, and I'm gonna talk about that music as well. So make sure you keep that up there as well. And by the way, if everybody else listening, just feel free to share questions, and I'll make sure I get those at the end. Okay, so first and foremost, one reason why it could be that it's very hard or that manifestation isn't happening so quickly is one, you have beliefs that you have hardwired through your habits. By the way, Neville even talks about this in the three propositions, that people forget that their habits are formed by their ideas. Okay, and so again, some of that means that you might need to revise some childhood beliefs that have been given to you. Yes, given to you, and then you've normalized them. Right? So again, if you live in a family or a household where you were taught that being rejected as a child was normal, guess what that's going to do? That's going to produce in you not only a set of beliefs, that's going to produce in you, sorry, I have a dog. We produce in you a set of, sorry about that, produce in you a set of actions. So what does that mean? Well, if you grew up in a family where rejection was normalized, right, and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad, I feel unacceptable, no matter what I do, I can put on makeup, I can dress up, I can wear nice things, and so on and so forth, right, then what will happen is that you're then going to take action. So those actions will be, for example, maybe obsessing. You might have like a person that you want to manifest, then you start following and watching and looking at their behaviors and then interpreting their behaviors through what? Not from having them in your life, which Neville says which is what we should do when it comes to desire, right? But that we end up reacting from what? Rejection. So then we're always looking through the filter of rejection. And so we have to understand that manifestation isn't just order and then wait. I know that Neville has a lecture, right? But that waiting isn't necessarily saying don't do anything. What that means is that your action will always be predicated on your state. So a very simple example. Okay, I love teaching. So that means my actions are going to feel like they're compelled. Wait, and this is very important to hear. Okay, they're going to feel like they're compelled from what? The state of being a teacher. So what that means, every morning, I'm going to get up, I'm going to study, I'm going to learn, I'm going to write content. I'm going to write content for doing lives. I'm going to write content for books. I'm going to write content for doing lectures at universities, right? So then, are you hearing me? So people really fear action within the world of manifestation, or even within the world of Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard is not saying don't act. He's saying that you are going to act, and that when you act, you're going to be acting from, right? From, oh yeah, well said, Liza, is that from the state. So again, if I have a state, I don't need to sit there and wait to be happy-going teacher. I'm going to be happy-going teacher every day. That's something that I already do, okay? So, but you have to understand that your identity is very much intersubjective. What does that mean? So intersubjective is just a philosophical word that means everything that we agree upon becomes part of our ideas and part of our way of acting. Again, very, very simple, dumb example is that if you're afraid of heights, you're not going to touch a ladder. Okay, why? Because your state is, I fear heights. That's your identity. So your identity says, I'm going to stay away from this. So guess what your action is going to be? Avoiding heights. That is an action. Avoiding something is also an action. Are you with me? So again, your beliefs will form your actions. You are always acting. You pressing and show, like having a conversation right now, right? And pressing the enter button on your comment box, that's an action. Okay, so this idea of being afraid of action is extremely unhealthy and very misunderstood in the world of Neville Goddard and manifestation. Okay, it's what are you doing and what are you doing those actions from? Okay, are you with me so far? So if you want, you can, if you're still here, just write action is not the enemy, right? But, okay, so back to this idea of identity. Everything is framed by identity. So that's why I started talking about how America is individualistic and so on and so forth. So then you start measuring out of, which is kind of a lack, because basically what you are told is that you're never enough. And this is very important, okay? Because when you, thank you very much, Sadia, welcome, is this idea that we only act out of identity. So another way of understanding the word state is identity. But the identity is never just a simple product. It's a series of things that we accept and consent and agree to constantly. Okay? So I really, really want you to hear this, is that if you are acting or not acting, it is out of a state. It doesn't matter whether you're acting or not. People overthink this way too much. Okay? You are not acting because you believe in something. Like, for example, am I going to go burn down a house? No. So that's an action I'm not going to take. But that's still an action. It's a form of action. It's called inaction. Why do you think they call it inaction? Because you're not taking action in that area. So then, because I believe it's violent, right? I believe it's not helpful. It's not out of love, and so on and so forth. Okay? So again, when we are asking the question, why is manifestation so hard? One, you already made an assumption, okay? And what is an assumption? An assumption is a lens upon which you interpret everything else, okay? And what does Neville say? Assumptions can harden into fact. That means not only do they influence your decision in that one area, they become a way of life. So that, again, afraid of heights, when I say if you're afraid of heights and it becomes a way of life, right? Then that means you're going to live your whole life in connection to that belief. Okay? It isn't just going to just change you in that moment. It's going to change the way in which you live life. Okay? If you are, for example, this is a very, very hard one that I'm going to deal with in probably another video. But let's say your belief is, I am a person who is worthy of rejection, or I'm a person who has a low self-esteem, and whatever, right? All of those things. Guess what? You're going to try to manifest somebody in your life that's going to mirror that, whether you want to or whether you realize it or not. This is why sometimes you'll actually run into people who are like, why am I manifesting the same person? And they're actually different people, but they're actually the different person with the same issues. Guess who the issue is? It's you. You're the issue. That sounds very, very harsh, and I don't mean it's like come off that way. What I'm saying is that we've cultivated certain beliefs about ourselves, and then we live out of those beliefs, and other people can only do one thing, which is mirror those beliefs. That's it. So then what people do is they'll say, well, Neville says to forgive them. Neville says to, forgiveness is forgetting. All true. But if you're still filtering out from, hey, I'm this rejectionable person, guess what you're going to do? You're going to try to manifest that same possibly abusive person back into your life because you're like, well, you know what? I deserve to actually manifest an SP. And even though that was a bad relationship, I want them back. Just because you'd rather not be lonely and actually deal with that, right? You would actually go ahead and accept a past relationship that isn't good for you. Okay? So that is very, very key to remember. And by the way, that application that I just shared with you about the SP can go in any direction, with any manifestation, okay? Because if you don't believe you deserve money, guess what state you're going to be in? The state of poverty, okay? If you believe that money's hard to get, that's still a state of not deserving it, right? Okay. Okay, so yeah, all right. Let me answer some questions because I realize I'm kind of backing up here. So, and I do see your study as well. Thank you for joining. So I will come to all these. So, all right, let's go to music. Okay. Sometimes because I don't see the manifestation, I start to doubt. Okay. So, first and foremost, this is going back to music's first question, right? So, what is going on? Well, there's two things going on. Okay. First and foremost, you have to realize that imagination is the only reality. Now, let me explain what that means because people hear that and I don't think people really get what's being said. So imagination is where creation happens, right? And imagination is not what you did when you were 5 and 7 or when you daydream. It's very different. The way in which Neville defines manifestation is that it's like a multiverse. Like that's probably the quickest way that I can probably help you understand what he's meaning. And the multiverse, which is your mind, is filled with endless possibilities. All right. That means there's many, many different versions of you. And there's one version of you that you are going to try to manifest from. And that is going to be the person who has everything that you want. Right. And so when you do this, though, you have to go and hear. And manifestation, if you fill in the word with meaning or purpose, or actually meaning, I think, or even interpretation. Okay, that's a much better understanding of what Neville is saying here, or even perception. So when he says imagination, hear the word perception. Okay, so again, it is only here. Your perception is your only reality. That's really what he's saying here. Whatever you perceive is how you're going to act in the world and how others are going to treat you. So again, if you perceive, for example, that doubt is part of your belief system, then you're going to have to actually go through doubt. Okay? You can get to the point where you actually don't perceive that doubt is part of your belief system. Or that when it shows up, because let's be honest, we all will have doubt in some way, shape, or form because we're all learning. Neville says this world, the stage world, is just a school. A mental school, a psychological school, okay? That means whatever you want to call this world, the world, right, is just where we go to learn and remember that we're all God's creating, right? And so part of that is understanding that it's okay to doubt. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to wonder, but at the same time, you don't want to lock it in. You don't want to become the doubter. Do you hear the difference? So doubting is okay. Don't become the doubter. Okay, because the doubter, then you start what? You start identifying, as we've been talking about, right, as a person who is doubting all the time. Okay, you don't want to do that. All right, and so again, you can use like breathing techniques. You can use things like the 4, 7, and 8 breathing technique. You can go out for a run. You can punch your pillow. You can do whatever it is that actually helps you down regulate or actually remove doubt. Okay, distract yourself. In fact, I always encourage my coaching clients that you have to make a list of 10 to 20 different things in which you would go distract yourself with. Go hang out with a friend. Go buy yourself a great drink. All this kind of stuff, right? And so again, doubting doesn't mean that you will miss your manifestation. That's very important to hear. As you're learning, you might doubt. That's okay. That's not going to ruin your manifestation. And if you believe it won't slow it down, it's not going to slow it down. Okay? Are you with me? So again, doubt is not the manifestation killer. So can somebody write that? Doubt is not the manifestation killer. I know it's a lot to write, but doubt is not the manifestation killer. The belief in doubt is. Do you get what I'm saying? So Neville says in one place, he says, listen, loss doesn't exist, only the belief in loss does. That means you're never disconnected from your desire. Are you with me? So you're never disconnected from your desire. Never. But the belief that you are is what you're experiencing. So that's what he means when he says imagination creates reality. Your series of beliefs, your states, the way you see things, the way that you perceive them is manifesting. So for example, if you believe manifestation takes time or it's hard, guess what you're going to believe? And guess what you're going to experience? So when I started titling this for today, this is the major area that I wanted to deal with, is you have to really understand that things aren't hard. You believe that they're hard, so then therefore they are hard. You believe that things take time, whether that be because you have a belief or you've been taught and trained by your parents that time is important, or whatever it is that maybe you give too much meaning to society and work commitments and you look at your watch all the time and you're OCD about it, right? So that means you have a belief that time matters. matters. And so if you have a belief that time matters, then guess what? Your manifestation is going to take time. I've seen people manifest stuff within like literally 15, 20 seconds and stuff. I'm sure you have, right? I mean, something as simple as like waiting in line and then having somebody give you their space in line because you don't want to wait, right? That's happened to me actually a few times. I've gotten to the point where I know for a fact I can go to Starbucks and pretty much get a free drink no matter what. Almost like clockwork, right? And I know this. And it happens, right? So again, the reason why I bring all these up, one, to prove to you that I actually do manifest stuff, but then two, also to show you that if you believe that loss is part of an inevitable human experience, you're going to experience loss. And loss comes in many different forms. It comes in the form of how is this going to happen? That's a form of loss, right? And so why? Because you're afraid to lose. You're afraid of maybe not getting your manifestation. So you ask how. But then here's the crazy thing, because then your brain's going to look for the reasons why things happen. Well, yeah, but look it's not happening. So then music, to go back to what you're saying, and I will answer the other questions as well, is that to go over what you're saying is what will happen is that if you think that it is a possibility that you aren't going to get it, you're only going to see that. You're only going to focus on that. You might even go to Reddit or WhatsApp groups or Slack groups that are, around people sharing their failures, right? And then you're going to find, oh man, look at this. And then lo and behold, maybe a week later, 4 days later, 2 days later, you're like, nope, manifestation doesn't work, right? Because you've not only created, and by the way, check this out. That's one belief. That's only one belief, right? You've literally operated off of one belief that's now turned you into a non-believer in manifestation, okay? So again, keep in mind that if you believe in doubt, then doubt matters, okay? Don't believe in doubt, okay? Now, what does that mean? Well, then that means it's going to take time for you not to believe in doubt. You have to ignore it. And ignoring takes time, but check out my other video on ignoring, because I actually turned that into a technique. I'm not going to focus on that today, but it is important to learn how to ignore, right? And when I say how to ignore, I mean ignore the how as well. So flip that. Ignore the how, because the how will show up in different ways. Because the how will show up as what, right? Do you remember in school you had to write a story and you had to answer those 5 questions: who, what, where, when, and how? Check this out. If you are in the state of lack, if you're in the state of having, guess what you're going to do? You're going to take the how and turn it into the what. And then the what's going to turn into the when. Then the when's going to turn into the where. And right? So what that means is you've taken one thing, how, which is doubt. How is a form of doubt, right? You've now created other questions that are related to that doubt. So rather than just believing in yourself, you've now generated enough energy, because you're like, who, what, when, where, how, right? You sound like a roadrunner on crack, right? And so, don't take crack. It's not good. Stay in kids' school. Whatever I just said. So anyhow, all right, back to this. So what I want you to hear is that if you have a belief, you will have ways in which you're going to justify that belief. If you believe the world is a dangerous place, guess what you're going to tell me today about what you saw on the news? Guess what you're going to tell me about your Apple News app? Guess what you're going to tell me about your friend said about the gas prices, right? You're going to find ways and reasons to justify, okay? So music, then yours, and then Sadia, okay? So how do I become more aware of limiting beliefs, all right? So again, a lot of limiting beliefs that we have, we're not fully aware of, okay? And we're not fully aware of them because we essentially think that they're part of our identity. Remember at the beginning of this talk, I was talking about identity and like how America is like an individualistic culture and all this kind of stuff, right? And then you start filtering yourself. That becomes the way in which you measure your success as a person, as an individual. Then you'll be like, nah, I don't want to be part of a group, and so on and so forth, because you've measured yourself out of that belief. So then the belief works as a form of lack. I know it sounds really weird because you think, no, I have a belief, so that means I have it, right? No. Most beliefs are formed because we thought we needed the belief to survive. Please hear this. This is very powerful if you take on what I just said. Most beliefs that we have in our lives from our childhood are out of survival. Why? Because we're learning We're learning to be in the world. And even if you're in a safe environment as a child, you're still forming beliefs that are sometimes out of self-protection. That's what we call the ego. The ego's only role is to what? Self-protect. You do not want to manifest out of the ego. We do every day, but you want to get better at not manifesting out of the ego. Are you with me? So again, you only want to manifest out of deserving. So somebody put that down there. Manifest only out of deserving. Manifest only out of deserving. Okay? And so how can you become more aware? One is and this is a simple technique that I use and it works for me. I actually ask the inner self. Honestly, this is actually something I do and it works for me like a charm. So I will literally say, inner self, show me like memories, or show me thoughts that keep coming up, or show like, and so, I did that the other day and something popped up, right? Within, I think, 2 days of asking that question. And it made sense. I was like, oh yeah, of course, that is the issue, right? And so you want to get so good with the inner self, like, and if you're not into Neville, that's maybe your word for source or God or love or potential, whatever you want to like call this energetic substance, right? And so what you want to do is try that, but then also you can go to therapy. I'm trained in psychology, so I'm pro therapy, but then also what I would do is also do the active work of looking and trying to remember. There's nothing wrong with remembering as long as you're remembering to heal. Because if you're remembering to heal, then check this out. That's going to reverse it. Neville says, and that's what his whole idea of revision is. You're reversing who you are. You're reversing the person that was once abused. You're reversing the person who once had unsupportive parents. You're reversing that, right? And so revision is very powerful, and go check out my videos on that as well. And don't forget that I do group coaching, I do individual coaching, I do package coaching on all of this kind of stuff, right? Which is very different than a lot of people in the manifestation world that focus only on manifestation. I focus on healing as well. So again, how can you go back to your childhood? You can trace a thought, right? So again, music. So I would say for today, here's your homework, right? Take one issue that you have, whether it be money, whether it be rejection, whether it be anger, whether it be lack of fulfillment, whatever it is, and I guarantee you, if you sit with that feeling long enough and you think, where did it start? You're going to trace it back to a younger version of yourself. And this is for anybody, right? Try this today. Take just one. Don't try to do like 12 issues at once. You're going to exhaust yourself, right? And if you can't find it today, wait till it shows up tomorrow, right? Oh, here, that's amazing. Thank you. Okay, so let's keep this going. And Catherine B, welcome again. I know you jumped on before. That's so cool of you to jump on again. Thank you all for your patience. Honestly, that was my fault. I was actually, thank you for being patient. Okay, so where were we? We were talking about, okay, so beliefs, right? So again, I really, really want you to understand that beliefs are a way to see the world. And we're only ever manifesting through our beliefs. Oh, that's what I was doing. So I was talking about childhood, and I was going to jump into Sadia's. That's SQM, by the way, question. So Catherine, if you have any questions, feel free to share those as well. So again, thank you for your patience as well. You all rock. So childhood trauma. So this is one area, by the way. Yes, I definitely, oh, thank you, Raheem. That's really cool of you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually going to leave this one up as well. And so again, childhood trauma, and this is an area that I specialize in. So, if you need help, get in touch. But like basically childhood trauma, and please, well, all right, listen to what I'm going to say, but don't hear me judging it or devaluing what you've gone through. And you're going to hear this differently from other manifesting coaches, especially even in the world of Neville. What you've gone through has never been your fault. Never. I don't care what they say about beliefs or, oh, well, you know what? Every baby has some sort of, like Esther Hicks says, well, you know what? Every baby that's born is born with some sort of energetic frequency. And so if they end up having some sort of deformity, that was on them. I completely and utterly disagree with that. 100%. Like, I think that's an awful way of thinking. And so if you've ever had any abuse whatsoever, first and foremost, you don't deserve that, and you never have, and you never should. But the problem is that then you've created a belief system that makes you think that you have. Okay? That is where the responsibility comes in now. Okay? Is that now that you're aware, I think somebody actually talked about that earlier, about being aware. Okay, and I think that was music or something like that, right? And so now that we know we have awareness, awareness is power. Okay, so then how do we do that? Because remember, this is why sometimes manifestation is hard, because you've been taught you're not enough. Okay, so then what are you going to do? What are you going to do with not enough? So what I want you to do is I want you to imagine, because the Bible, as in the Apostle Paul, says that we are all jars of clay. Okay, so imagine, I know this is like, just imagine this is like a jar of clay. What are you doing with a jar of clay? You're putting things in it, right? You're putting things inside the jar of clay. Okay, so yes, and I believe it's in the Ephesians, by the way, if you're looking for the Bible verse, right? And so now you have a jar of clay, which you are, all of us are. Where's the jar of clay? Here, right? And we're filling it with stuff all the time, every second of every day. Okay, but if part of your story is, I am a person who deserved to be abused, because this is the problem when you get abused over and over and over again, you start telling the story that not only am I a person who is abused, I deserved it. Okay, this is why I'm always telling people, and even people in my coaching program, that essentially you need to realize you deserve your desire, because we're not taught that, not even in advertising. And this is somebody who used to be in advertising. Okay, you actually get taught you need to buy the thing to feel fulfilled. Neville is completely opposite and flips it. You're already fulfilled. You just now need to recognize it. And he says your inability to recognize it is why you fail. So that's another reason why people fail at their manifestation, because they're still looking out here. Right? And that goes back to Music's initial question as well, right? Because if you're constantly looking outside of you, then you're going to doubt. That means you don't trust inside of you. That means you've been taught, and there's a childhood memory attached to this, that you are not trustworthy, and that nobody else around you is trustworthy. So then guess what you're going to be believing? Guess what you're going to manifest? Not feeling trustworthy. Okay? And then you're going to actually then go into your relationships not believing other people. I know that. I've been there. Okay? I get it. But at the same time, what you want to see and hear is that you already have it within. And this takes practice. If you just jumped on, then again, remember what Abdullah said as Neville's guru, right? Some people really want this just to happen overnight, but really don't realize that all of our conditioning, as in our childhood as well, is something that we need to unravel, unfold. And so, if you have a limiting belief and it's been rolling in your head for like 20 years, it's not going to change overnight. I mean, that's really what Abdullah said. People don't like to hear this in manifestation communities. They just want the drive-through McDonald's version. And then guess what ends up happening? They get what they want, and then it leaves. And then, and it might not leave for 10 years, but then it ends up leaving. So obviously, I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for anybody else. And so that's why I'm focusing more on the psychology of this, because people need to fully understand that even Neville says, look at the Bible is psychological. So what does that mean? We should look to psychology to actually help us explain what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're doing it. You want to get better and quicker at manifesting? Honestly, this is it right here. Go deeper into your own psychology. Go deeper into your own mental world and do the work, right? Work and effort are not two different things, because if you're doing the work, right, you're going to want to do the work. Why? Because it's going to make you better. Then you will get to the point where you're manifesting stuff like crazy. Okay? Because it's so easy. Can you manifest while you're doing the work? 100%. In fact, I encourage people to do that. You don't just sit there and wait to be healed fully, right? Hi, Ross. Very, 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 very cool. Thank you for the target. And so again, all right, back on to the question from Sadia, okay? And again, Catherine, thank you for your nice comment. Oh yeah, and welcome, I think it's Marilla. Let me know if I pronounced that right? I will come back to your question as well. So is there an antidote to this might not happen? Oh, that's a deep one, Sadia. Not a manifestation killer. Yeah, so what if your 3D reinforces your beliefs? Okay, so all that 3D does, all that it is a mirror world. That's it, right? So when you see Alice in Wonderland walking through the mirror world, she's walking into a world of her own design. Okay, that is ultimately what's happening. When you woke up this morning, you woke up in a world of your own design, right? And I know I'm doing a lot of pop culture references, but you know, it is like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where Wonka's saying, we live in a world of pure imagination. So that's true, and it's a good story as well. But it is true because when you wake up, you are literally waking up what? You're waking up to your story. You're waking up to the things that you keep rehearsing. And how do you change that? Well, again, if you've been in my program, then you would hear me say things like, for example, you don't want to leave your bed for the rest of your life, and well, I'm not saying that as in never leave your bed. What I'm saying is you don't want to start your day, as in leave your bed. You don't want to start your day without revising or building or mentally creating your whole day. If you know you got to go to work, then imagine it's the best work. Imagine that you've already been promoted. Imagine that your boss loves you. Imagine that you've been celebrated. Imagine that you're at a different job. Whatever it is that you want, imagine. That means your perception is going to change. That means your perception is going to change in the job while you're in the job, even if it's not the job you want to be in. Right? Are you with me? So then you're actually altering the perception around what and who you are. That's key. It's not just your actions, it's who you are from the inside. Okay, and you'll know who that is because it's gonna be based on your reactions, right? If you go in today and you're like, I really don't like my job, but I'm gonna try to like imagine I'm at my other job. Okay, and then 10 minutes later, you're like, my job sucks. I don't like being here. Guess what you've done? You've popped out of state. You've actually popped out of state, and if you continue down that storyline, you're just gonna keep waking up in that mindset. So then what happens is, let's say that you do that today, or that you have done that today. Then how can you fix it? Well, then your bedtime routine is actually going to sleep in the wish fulfilled. That means you're revising the rest of your day. So if you started your day and you imagine that you're at your different job, revise the day, even though you know it didn't go your way, and that means change the day and imagine as if it did go your way. Okay? But you're doing that technique for the rest of your life. This is actually what you do. Because think about this though. If you're doing that, how amazing is your life going to be? And again, yes, it will take time to show up in your mirror world, right? But where you live is here. You don't live out there. Because if you're living out there and you're saying, why isn't the 3D mirroring me yet, right? Then you're still in the how stage, right? Because remember, how hides itself as what, when, where, right? All of that kind of stuff. So that means you're still not believing in your own ability. So that means you've been taught a belief that you aren't enough, that you don't have enough power, that your power belongs to somebody else, or to a routine, or to a religion, or to an action, or to, this is why some people get into OCD, like they actually find safety in that action, right? So again, what's going to happen is you find safety in your limiting beliefs. Take that in, take it in. You find safety in your limiting beliefs because you know that better. Remember, Neville calls beliefs what? Like clothes. The Bible calls it a robe. What do you do with those? You put them on. You wear them, right? They're actually part of your whole way of seeing things. You take it with you everywhere you go. And so again, if you're constantly believing that the 3D isn't matching up, then that's a belief, which is a belief in what? We talked about this earlier. It's a belief in loss. Okay, so that means you believe in loss because you've been taught and normalized it enough in your life that you think that all you deserve is loss. Right? So always come from a state of deserving that you deserve it, okay? So I think there's one more set of questions, and I did see more from Saudi as well, but I want to try to mix it up a little bit. So do we believe in our higher self or our dreams? What I mean is, do we let the inner self decide what is better for us? Or should we know what we want and manifest the end? Okay, so that's a great question. So basically she's asking, if you didn't hear that, and you can scroll up as well to see it, is should we let the inner self, as in God, choose for us, or should we choose? So, okay, so do you know like New Year's, right? All of those? So if you know about New Year's resolutions, raise your hand, do emoji or something, right? So that's what you do at the end of the year when you make a commitment. I want to go to the gym, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? And so most people fail by February, late February, right? And the reason being is, and this is my specialty area that I focus on, is human habit, right? And the reason being is because we're too abstract. So people say things like, I want to lose weight. Guess what? Your brain is not going to help you. I want a big house. Your brain's not going to help you. I want an SP. Your brain's not going to help you. We're not being specific enough. And this is why another reason why manifestation might seem hard, okay, is you're not being specific enough in yourself, okay? So that means, and this is a technique that I teach coaching clients, is you take what I call the characteristic chain, and you create a characteristic chain of behaviors and actions and beliefs. And yes, I'm a big believer that yes, you do action here. Okay, so sorry about that. I think next time we're going to try the PC. So thank you guys for staying on. So again, you create a characteristic chain. If you were a house owner today, what characteristics would a house owner have? If you were a car owner, what characteristics would that person have today, this second, this moment, right? Then you begin embodying those in here, right? That's just so your brain doesn't get fatigued, okay? And you don't get bored of the same scene over and over. But then also at the same time, how would you embody that day? Would you go out and buy a nice little hat that says Jeep? Would you go out and buy a t-shirt that matches your carpet? I won't judge you if you do that. But what I'm saying is, what actions would make sense to you that you would do that would mirror, right? That would actually mirror this new person, okay? Are you with me? So that's what you want to do. You want to be specific. So to answer your question more like specifically, Marilla, you want to be actively manifesting always from the end. You do. You don't want to wait for God because you are God. So if you're waiting for God, you're waiting for yourself, right? So that'd be like saying, well, I'm waiting for manifestation, okay? And manifestation, like Neville says, doesn't operate itself. So that means you want to be actively operating in the imagination first, but then from there to here. So again, if you're a gym goer, okay, if you're a person who goes to the gym, that's different from somebody who wants to go to the gym. Are you with me? So if you want to go to the gym, you're probably going to fail eventually, because manifestation isn't about having, it's about being. Okay, but if you're a gym goer, do you hear the difference? Does everybody hear the difference? If you do, explain it in your own words for somebody else below, right? If you understand what I'm saying, share it in your own understanding, right? Because again, if you have an SP, they can leave. If you have a house, it can go, right? But if you're a house owner, right? And that does not mean an SP owner, by the way. That does not mean you own anybody, okay? That is not what this is about. But are you in a marriage, right? So being married is very different from having somebody in your life, right? So again, it is about being. It's about embodying. But embodying doesn't just happen here. It also happens here. That's where you also begin to change. That's why Neville says selective hearing. What is selective hearing? It is an action, because you are only hearing what you want to hear. In fact, check out my new, and I think it's going to be up in the next hour or something, but it's called Documenting the Good. And it's a technique directly from the Bible. And essentially what you're doing is you are only looking for the good. Even when bad things are happening all around you, you're only looking for the good. Okay, and that's what that verse means, overcoming evil with good. That's literally what it's saying. You are documenting only the good. That's it. I mean, in fact, it's actually a beautiful word picture. And the word picture is this, okay? It's like somebody standing on the side of a road and just saying this: good, 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 good. You're only looking and pinpointing and pointing out the good. That's all you're doing. And I know this takes time, so don't hear me say, oh yeah, you're going to do this today. Well, try it for 10 minutes. Try it for 10 minutes tomorrow. Try it for 10 minutes the next day, and so on and so forth. And then you're going to build out a radically different person who then starts, and that's what like selective hearing in, right? And so let's see. Do you imagine your ideal day with your SP? Yeah, 100%. Right? Yeah. So this is back to Sadia's question at the end here. Okay. And I'll be going off in about 5 minutes. So keep your questions coming. But I mean, like, do you imagine your ideal day with your SP? 100%. So, and Sadia, you know a lot of what I've been talking about today. But I mean, like, you know, there's this word, and Sadia, you and I've talked about this before. That's SQM, by the way. She's one of my awesome clients. Is what you want to do is you want to persist. And I don't like how people define persist, because they define persist as keep going. I think that's an awful actual understanding of what the rich biblical meaning is, because when you look it up from the Hebrew or Greek, right, it means continuous. Or even if you drill down even further, it means each. If you drill down even further than that, it means everywhere. Okay? But why? Why would it say that, right? What it's saying is you are taking the new person with you. So what does that mean? So again, let's say that you want to be a friend, like meaning you want more friends. One, you've got to go embody that. That means you got to be a friend. Okay? In here first, always, obviously, right? Create the scenes of being a friend. Then you go and be a friend in this world, right? And so what that also means, though, is that means now from this point, while you're waiting for the friends to show up here, you're now going and being the friend everywhere you go in this world, right? And so you are actually living out of the end. You are being the end. That's really what Neville says. When he says live from the end, he doesn't mean just live and hear from the end. I know a lot of people read it that way, and most people would disagree with what I'm about to say. But to me, living means, because check this out. If you only live in here without any action out here, and there are times, by the way, yes, that you can't do anything. I get it. Like, for example, if you're manifesting a lump sum of money, okay? But for the most part, actually, research shows that the more that you are active in trying to impress the subconscious and then living it out in the conscious world, it actually can manifest faster, okay? So keep that in the back of your mind, right? So persistence means I'm this new person that I want to be with me everywhere I go. You're now the friend who has loads of friends who celebrate you, right? And then when you're saying hello to the check person that you're giving money to buy the groceries with, whatever it is that you're doing, you're now saying it from the perspective of the person who has what they want, right? And it doesn't matter what you want. This is the same technique across, right? Across the board. And so you're bringing that mentality with you every single place that you go, every one, okay? So that's what you want to begin doing. And so I've thrown out a lot of techniques, and I hope that this was helpful to people. Thank you for everybody being patient with the internet. Next time it's going to be on the PC for sure. But thank you for all of your support. I will have this up beautifully. YouTube thought it was cool, so they saved everything. So that's really awesome. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for all the new people. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I do have a free Discord group that you're welcome to join. Obviously, the coaching is not, but the community there is amazing. And so, Saudi is part of it. So, and if you're looking for coaching, get in touch. But other than that, thank you so much for being awesome humans. I really do wish you the best. And until next time, okay? Have a great one. Yeah, thank you, music, as well. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.